blackboard was on that wall. And I think the only blackboard there was the one that Bill and Karen have in their house, which is only, what, maybe 6 by 4 at most. So it was really kind of a small blackboard. And then there was a recitation bench. You know what that is? It was a bench with no armrests on it, just a bench with a back. And if you, for your lesson, you go sit in the recitation bench, and the teacher would work on the blackboard up in front of you. Also, hanging up there were rolled up maps, and she could pull down the map and show you the things on the map.
What years are we talking about? Like 1930.
5.
Yeah,
About 38.
1938 to 1942.
2.
Okay.
Or 3. 2 or 3. And so then behind that were desks, and the desks were double desks. And so we could sit 2 people to a desk, which was helpful. Sometimes you have an older student and a younger student, and the older could help the younger one out. And then the teacher's desk was in that back corner. And beside that, also across the back, was a library desk, a whole table, actually a library table. And behind that was a couple of shelves of books. There was nonfiction books, like the novels, like Magic Garden or whatever. And then there was reference books, like arithmetic and English and so on. And when Eunice was 4 years old, she didn't like the idea that I had gone off to school without her. So she would come on her own without telling my mother where she was, because we lived just down the hill. And so she would be here, and the teacher had no way of contacting anyone. There was no telephone or anything. And she couldn't leave the other kids here. So she would sit Eunice at the library table with some books, and Eunice would sit there and play school. And I think somehow they actually registered Eunice after she turned 5 in April. And I don't know if that was first grade, or if they did it like kindergarten, or if they did it just because the teacher was cooperative, because Eunice wanted to be here anyway. Teachers right up until high school were female, and most of them were married, but at that time there was a shortage of men because they were just going into World War II. So there were married women teachers. During the Depression. During the Depression, there was a shortage of jobs, and so women were discouraged from taking a job away from a man because a man had a family to support. That's what they said.
Yeah.
This is a pump that supplied drinking water for the school. And when we had boys in school, it was the boys' job to come out and pump a pail of water, take it to the school, and then we had dippers to dip the water out. And I think we had our own glasses, drinking glasses. We dipped the water out, put in our drinking glasses. But after the school closed, we used this well to supply drinking water for the house. And so it was my job after school every day. I'd come up with the pail and pump it full of water, take it back down to the house. And there again, we put it on the windowsill, and we had a dipper to dip the water out to drink. But the handle, apparently it was gone. The handle was up here.
I think the handle's right there on the ground.
No. See, that hooked onto here.
No, over here on the ground, see it?
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Can you pick it up, Henry?
Can you hold this in?
Can you attach it?
Let me hang on to somebody.
You go like that, right?
When'd you get in the end of that chair?
I don't know how it went.
And where does this go? then something broke off of right there.
Something must have sat right in there.
Looks like a slot would have. Oh yeah, this would have gone through this.
Oh, there you go. Good, 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 good.
Yeah, that's cool. You want to get a video of the cows? Yeah. Especially that one that's eating it by itself.
See, they like their hay. See, they're discouraged.
He's not. It has something on it right here. $3.79.
But that's it.
Yeah.
That's the pulp. And I was 5, and I seem to remember there were 13 students here, but I can't really come up with the names of the 13. But then apparently they passed a state law that kids from 7th grade had to go to the central school because for grades 3 and 4, there were only 3 or 4 of us that went to school here. It was myself, Eunice, Donna, and then Bob Gosier from Cape Vincent.
Donna, what was her maiden name?
Doctor.
Donna Doctor.
Donna Doctor. And you want the story on why Bob Gosier was here, even though he lived in Cape Vincent?
I'm curious,
Bob
yeah.
had a speech impediment, which never bothered us kids, but apparently adults couldn't understand him. But the teacher was Mrs. Webster, and she was a very good teacher, and she'd apparently had him in Cape Vincent. And she would bring him with her here. So he went 2 years here, I think.
Bless her heart.
So for the first year, I think it was 1st through 7th grade. And then for my 3rd year, I think it was just, I must have been the oldest one. I don't know. Gertie Jones also, Gertie and Jerry were here.
Were there Hollenbecks?
No, they were too old.
Mm.
But I'll show you where the Joneses lived. They lived even farther than Donna lived to walk, but they were older also. And I can't remember when they were here. Jerry was older, and I think he probably left to be in 6th or 7th grade in Cape Vincent. And Gertie must have been younger. She was here when I was in 3rd grade, I think.
When you
This
left,
is 80 years ago.
yeah, 80 years ago this year, right?
So I don't remember the way I should.
Right, if you left in 1942. When you left, did you leave because the school closed, or did you
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't sure if you aged out or
No.
the school. So you were one of the last. You were in the last group of kids to be here. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you started riding a school bus.
Yes.
Laird Schoolhouse. It's in the budget book, but it's 1899. It's in an article about something. It says, Mrs. Thomas Robinson, something, from Ellis Village.
It says schools on one of them.
Yeah. From a store, it must be.
Yeah.
I don't know where it came from.
It's got gold paint in it.
Uh-huh.
School Clerks, OMT, and then one says sole agent.
Huh. It
One of
looked
them
like
was missing.
something that came from a store,
Yeah, it does.
not nothing
These
here.
are, maybe they're customers?
And that's, what is that? I think that's like a thrashing machine
Yeah,
back
it is.
there, isn't it?
Yeah, it says it on one part, but it's on the side.
Cool.
Yeah, that's for like thrashing beans, I think, or something. Or
When do you
beans.
think they built this building?
Pardon?
When do you think they built this?
When?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It says it's a seed cleaner.
Laird built the house like 1830.
Okay.
So and people were coming in like 1840, and they would have had kids. But look how
1840s.
high this was,
Yeah.
you know, and it's cold in the winter. Now, right above, well, back there, is that a chimney hole, Henry?
Oh yeah, right there.
That is.
Back there?
Yeah, right there. There's
Oh,
chimney
Yeah.
okay.
still there.
But the stove was over here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it must be the pipe went up and over, huh? First came here, I was 5 years old, and at home we had a bathroom with a flush toilet. But when I came here, there was an outhouse that we were supposed to use. And there was a double outhouse. One side was girls, the other side was boys. But nobody had introduced me to the outhouse and say, you know, this is what you were supposed to do. You were supposed to raise your hand. I think it was one finger if you had to pee and two fingers if you had to poop.
Really?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
That's probably just a figment of my imagination. But anyway, I was afraid to ask to go. So I did. I wet my pants. And of course, the teacher had no way to communicate with my mother and let her know. And so I sat there, I suppose, the rest of the day with wet pants. And apparently they wised up and they must have told me I should use the bathroom. For one thing, I was afraid the boys would go out at the same time I was out there. And it was an outhouse. And I remember my father was the one that had to empty it out. I suspect once a year. And I suspect it must have been after the ground was frozen a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But he supplied the wood too. The wood house was right back there.
Where was the outhouse? Was it in front of the
wood
school?
house. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Like toward your home?
When you came, yeah.
Okay.
When you came in the door, the wood was stacked right in front of you.
Okay.
Then you turn right to come into the building.
At this time, though, you didn't have an outhouse at your house, did
No.
you? You had a
No.
flush toilet.
Yes.
Okay. Did your parents put the flush toilet in?
No, it was there.
It was there
See,
before?
there was at least one old lady living there when we moved in, and I suspect they must have had it put in for her. My first teacher was Vera Haubeck, and she was very good. And the second teacher was Vera Haubeck. She drove out from the Cape. I don't remember having snow days. I guess we just went to school or we didn't. And then for third grade, it was Miss Branch. And I remember Miss Branch because when Bill was born, Leona Doctor came and stayed with us, got us ready for school in the morning because my mother was in the hospital. And Leona told us we had a baby brother. So Eunice and I walked up to school, and Marie Branch was just getting out of her car, and it had a running board on it. And so we ran over and we told her we had a baby brother. And she either was or pretended to be very surprised because she sat down on that running board and she couldn't believe that we had a brother. And then it was the fourth grade was Mrs. Webster and Bob Gosher. So Bob was only here 1 year, I guess.
Okay.
Mrs. Webster was the reason I became a math teacher. When we got to the high school, we chose our own subjects. There really was no guidance or whatever. And I was going to be a secretary, so I was taking commercial subjects. And for an optional subject, I took home ec. And there was another girl in home ec. Well, there were lots of girls in home ec, but one of them wanted to change. She didn't like the teacher, and she didn't want to change alone, so she begged me to change with her, and that was Elnora Bombard. And I said, oh, okay. So we went and we changed to algebra. And in addition to 8th grade, somehow, Mrs. Webster also taught algebra. And she was a very good teacher, very nice. And so I decided I liked algebra. You know, I don't think we ate much, to tell you the truth. We were little, you know. I do remember we had the pot-belly stove. I didn't talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
The pot-belly stove was right there someplace. And yes, the teacher was responsible for getting that stove started in the morning. and all she had, as far as I know, was the wood that my father had put in the woodshed out there. And many a winter morning, we sat with our coats on until the building warmed up a little bit. But what I don't understand is, why did they build the schoolhouse so tall?
The ceilings.
With high ceilings.
Yeah.
Must be what, 12, 15 feet?
Uh,
And so
yeah.
it took a long time to warm up. And apparently they couldn't bank it. I don't think they had coal. I think all they had to burn was the wood.
Was wood.
But Donna took great pleasure. She would bring a potato and put it on top of the stove to cook. But I don't think it really did. But that was her lunch.
A partially
I don't remember
cooked
what we
potato.
brought for lunch.
Huh.
We were close enough we could have gone home, but I don't think we went home either.
Did you have?
But we did have recess.
Well, I was just going to ask about that.
And we were kind of on our own for recess. We made up our own games, and mostly it was like illy-olly over, throwing a ball over the roof here. You'd throw the ball over the roof, and then somebody on the other side would catch it, and then they'd run around and tag you. We played tag. I don't think we had a ball or anything like that. No ball, no bat. Well, we did have a ball because we played illy-olly over, threw it over the, but we had nobody worried about equipment. I don't know where the ball came from.
So, when you were going here, there was still a high school in the Cape, or no? There was a separate high school?
There was a high school, but it was just for village.
So if you
Village
were a
high
high
school.
schooler and you lived out here in the country, you'd go to school here?
Yes.
It's okay.
Yes.
And there were no school buses
No.
before the war?
No. If you wanted to go to high school, in a lot of places, the students would stay with a family in that village so they could go to school.
Ah. So how many country schools were there, do you know, in the Cape?
I think there must have been one, this is the only one between Cape Vincent and
Rosier Road?
3 Mile Bay.
Oh, was it? There were none other?
No, there is one just on the corner. But they were like every 5 miles, maybe? The farthest a kid could be expected to walk would be 5 miles, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
Maybe less.
So like a dozen at least of these little schools.
Say again.
Like a dozen of these little schools around the Cape, probably?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've got someplace I can look that up.
So during the war, it's kind of funny that they made that transition during the war. Because
It
you'd
is,
think
isn't it?
resources would be really scarce, but
Well, actually, it might have been saving resources because you had like a teacher here with 4 kids and a teacher in the next school with 3 or 4 kids, in the
Right.
next school. And this way, if you brought them all into the central school, we had a class of 25 with 1 teacher. So it actually might have been a money-saving procedure.
yeah, especially if all the men were at war.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you went to, when did they build that building then? Did they build
I
that?
think they finished it in 42.
So they built that specifically to be for all the kids of
Yeah,
Cape.
central school.
And so how was that transition when you had to go to the big school?
Well, I think I was a little surprised, concerned with all these kids in one class where I've been used to just kids that I'd grown up with forever and ever.
The reason I'm asking is I remember you telling a story about like the village kids thought that the country kids smelled bad.
Yeah,
And
well,
they told you you stunk or something.
yeah.
Yeah. You smelled like a
That's
farm.
7th graders.
Oh, okay.
After it closed, they had an auction and they sold off everything inside. And my father bought the blackboard, which is now in Uncle Bill's house, has been there. And he bought the fiction books, which I loved. Must have been probably 100 of them. So I could just go to my own library and pick up a book. And oh, the land, in the deed for this, it says the land reverts back to the farm. So the land reverted back to the farm, but my father bought the building, and I forgot now how much it was. Nobody else wanted the building, and if anybody else had purchased it, they would have to have moved it. So,
Right.
So he bought the building too, and I don't think he paid very much for it.
And this was, what was the name of this school?
Laird.
The
This
Laird
was the
School?
Laird School. Actually, the house where my brother lives has only belonged to two families since about 1830 something. The Lairds were there, and then their children were there, and then it went to an Edward Hayes, who was a nephew. He was still related to the Lairds, and then my father bought it, and it's been in the stumps ever since.
What year did your father buy
I
it?
don't know exactly.
Was Aunt Eunice already born?
Yes, she was. Well, he was there. If I started school in 38, we were there then. So previous to 38.
All right. So 90 years, 80 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.